Good morning friends and welcome back to another episode of Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. This week we shall continue our interaction between Ramesh Venkat and Gopinath Ramakrishnan. Ramesh surprisingly reveals that he has been a truck driver as well as a trucker before taking on this mantle. But first, here are the headlines of the week. With Russia and Ukraine going to war, crude oil prices start moving upwards. However, domestic prices will remain under check till March 7th at least. Daimler India Commercial Vehicles partners with Sero to boost Bharat-Benz new truck sales. Cutting logistics cost by 6%, a major challenge, says Nitin Gadkari. Make provisions in scrappage policy to boost purchase of new vehicles, Parliamentary Committee tells the government. E-way bill generation records new high in February. Detailed news and the interaction between Ramesh and Gopi coming up after this very short break. You are watching Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन।
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन।
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
Welcome back friends. I am Girish Michandani and you are watching Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. The road transport industry seems to be riding on a high. जी हाँ दोस्तों, आपने सही सुना। रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन दौर से गुजर रहा है। Movement of goods has picked up across India, which is evident from the high number of e-way bills that have been generated in the month of Feb. However, rising costs are a challenge, but that does not seem to deter movement through road transport. The e-way bill generation crossed highest per day number as on 20th Feb 2022. As per ITWA's e-way bill dashboard, 476.56 lakh e-way bills have been generated in 20 days, which is approximately 23.83 lakh per day. The highest number previously was achieved in October 2021, where the number had reached 23.71 lakh per day. However, the industry should prepare itself for a diesel price hike after March 7th. Well, the extent of the hike cannot be predicted as of now, but we are anticipating a hike of anywhere above 8 rupees per litre. इसमें कोई दो राह नहीं है कि मार्च 7 के बाद डीजल के प्राइसेस बढ़ाए जाएंगे, लेकिन किस हद तक इसका अंदाज़ा अब तक तो नहीं है। लेकिन जहां तक हमारी जानकारी है, ये कम से कम 8 रुपये प्रति लीटर होगा। क्या रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री इस इंक्रीज को अपने कस्टमर्स तक पास ऑन कर पाएगी? That is going to be a question mark. There is not going to be any slowdown in terms of movement of goods. But what impact will it have on the operating cost and the profitability of truckers and transporters is something that needs to be seen. We would once again urge the industry and hundreds of associations out there to create awareness amongst its members. Tell them about the operating cost of a truck. We still have many small transporters and truckers out there who are negligent about many hidden costs. For many truckers out there, diesel cost, toll tax and EMIs are still the only components that make up for the operating cost. There are many small and big expenses that need to be taken into account. And at the end of the day, the trucker or the small transporter has to take some money back home. हमारी इंडस्ट्री से दरख्वास्त है कि डीजल प्राइस बढ़ने के बाद वो अपने फ्रेट रेट्स भी अकॉर्डिंगली बढ़ाएं। किस हद तक बढ़ाना है वो अपनी ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट वर्कआउट करें और एसोसिएशंस ट्रकर्स और ट्रांसपोर्टर्स की इसमें मदद करें। Meanwhile, there is no doubt that the movement of trucks is going to keep rising and so are the sales of trucks. With the scrapping policy coming into effect for commercial vehicles from April 2022, the commercial vehicle manufacturers are preparing with schemes that would help truckers exchange or scrap their old trucks in lieu of newer trucks or brand new trucks. Daimler India Commercial Vehicles announced a strategic partnership with Sero, a scrappage and steel recycling facility owned by Mahindra MSTC Recycling Private Limited, also known as MMRPL. This partnership offers robust support and hassle-free service to customers. This partnership offers robust support and hassle-free service to owners, helping them to scrap their end-of-life commercial vehicles and replace them with new Bharat-Benz trucks. Daimler India Commercial Vehicles aims to provide an end-to-end solution to customers for scrapping their old trucks right from the process of vehicle valuation up until the receipt of COD, which is Certificate of Deposit. Cero is India's first organized automobile recycling initiative introduced to reduce carbon footprint using eco-friendly methods of recycling metals from ELVs. Mr. Satyakam Arya, Managing Director and CEO, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles said, "Scrappage is an important step towards reducing carbon footprint and old, polluting vehicles from Indian roads, which is the need of the hour. This is an opportunity for customers to replace their old fleet with new BS6 Bharat-Benz trucks, manufactured locally in India with a high standard of safety, quality, comfort and state-of-the-art technology. We see great potential for new truck sales with the effective implementation of the scrappage policy." While the industry prepares for the scrappage policy, Department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Industries in its 313th report has suggested the government to make provisions for upfront financial incentives in the scrappage policy to boost demand for purchase of new vehicles. The committee, consisting of 10 members of parliament from Rajya Sabha and 21 from the Lok Sabha, as well as 6 members of parliament secretariat under the chairmanship of Telangana Rashtra Samiti leader and members of the upper house, Dr. K. Keshav Rao, made the recommendations and observations in its recent report on downturn in automobile sector. All the roads as well as trucks are getting better. The concern for high logistics costs still continues to haunt the country, but the government is looking to take drastic steps to bring down logistics cost. Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, said that speed limit for vehicles on expressways would soon be increased to cut the fuel costs and thereby the logistics costs. Rules and regulations in this regard would be changed, he said. Addressing a public meeting after inaugurating and laying the foundation stone for numerous road development projects in Andhra Pradesh worth Rs 21,559 crores, the Union Minister noted that high logistics cost was proving a major problem for Indian exports. He said, "Our logistics cost is 16 to 18%, whereas it is 8 to 10% in China and 12% in Europe and the USA. That's one of the problems in our exports since the costs are high. We are going to accept this challenge and reduce logistics cost to 8 to 10%. He said the time has come to change the rules and regulations related on speed limit on expressways, as access control expressways were crucial to reducing fuel costs. Stating that there was no shortage of money in his ministry, Mr. Gadkari said the centre has decided to build 22 greenfield expressways across the country, as road infrastructure was vital, including 6 in Andhra Pradesh. Ports, waterways are very important. Road construction is also equally important. And as far as development is concerned, we don't want to discriminate anybody because the country belongs to everybody," he observed. The logistics segment is in for a very big change. In fact, a lot of changes are anticipated in the coming months and years. One of the biggest problems of the logistics sector has been trained manpower. The Logistics Skills Sector Council, also known as the LSC, has been playing its part to fill whatever gaps it can. It is trying to provide and train manpower across the board. This week we continue our interaction with Mr. Ramesh Venkat from LSC, who talks about his journey as a trucker, as a truck driver, and what are the future plans of the Logistics Sector Skill Council. Here's our very exclusive chat where Gopinath Ramakrishnan talks to Ramesh Venkat, coming up after this very short break. You are watching Trans India, real people, real emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन।
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन।
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे। चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो, महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
Wonderful. In fact, interesting that you mentioned trucking, because I understand from your background, you've been a trucker yourself. So share a little bit about your personal experience as a trucker. and how it is different from what you see on the road today?
Like I said, see, things have been on a complete transformation. Driving is also part of skilling. All the INGs, cycling, swimming, driving. So skills are those things which stay for life. Unlike education, you tend to forget. If I have to ask you what is trigonometry or Pythagoras theorem, you may not know. But once you acquire a skill, cooking, whatever, it stays with you for life. And to answer your question, it is greatly transformed. And if you make a drive on the highways today, you find more number of multi-axle vehicles than single-axle vehicles. And all the OEMs have started focusing on the safety aspects of the driver with better comforts. I would say, people often say in the OEM parlance, ICE engines, internal combustion engines. But today electric vehicle have also started using the same thing called integrated circuit, electric vehicles. They also want to call themselves ICE. So where there's been a great amount of technology and everything is roped into your Android or your iOS. So there is a great amount of upskilling that is required. So I was a trucker. My dad had a fleet of trucks. I used to drive trucks on so it used to be very horrendous, in hot summer in Andhra, engine heat, and today a driver has the comfort and convenience of sitting into an AC. This has to be adapted and embraced by the trucking fraternity. Once we often find that if the AC liquid is exhausted, it is not getting refilled. Of course, supply chain is all about cutting costs, but quality also needs to be considered. So to answer your question, trucking, the days of yore to what it is today, it is, I think, globally, the best practices in trucking is already started hitting the shores of the country, and it's a great time for the drivers. Only thing, driver's son does not want to become a driver, and we need to create a fresh set of skills for the upcoming aspirational drivers to get into this as a profession. Here I would like to denote, I had the opportunity to visit Amazon Seattle, where I saw a mammoth truck. They had optimized truck of a 53-footer, and the driver there was a 27-year-old girl who is whom I met. She was a gold medalist in MTech, getting in Indian currency about 4.67 lakhs salary as a monthly salary. There it is community driven, and you don't have a single truck of that stature or caliber in India. You can't even reverse it or turn it. The curvatures are not, but things are changing with 6 lanes and 4 lanes and better trucks with capacities, payload capacities or capabilities are already started hitting. And this, I'm sure, would completely transform trucking, the experience, the cost, quality, service and innovation in the sector.
Wonderful. And I think it's lovely to see that in the US, you're seeing gender diversity in the trucking, in the core driving business. But coming back to India, see, as you said, a lot of the drivers are upwards of 40-45 years.
Correct.
They have a limited lifespan in terms of their career.
True.
And you need to get in fresh blood.
Correct.
Right? At the same time, the driving practice is becoming better. Like you said, the roads are better, trucks are better, air-conditioned cabins, etc. So what is the constraint for the whole industry in terms of attracting this fresh blood into the workforce in this role of driver?
See, if I have to put it in one word, in fact, this I've debated with in many a forum. One is dignity of labor. So that needs to be addressed as a society, as a country, because they are the carriers of the nation. In fact, even during peak pandemic, when everything was, confined, these guys were on the move. Okay, and they were prone for vaccination. No vaccinations were there. Many of them, there were casualties and fatalities. So they need to be uplifted. And there are a lot of, spanner in the wheels. When they travel, dabas are closed, and a lot of harassments from some authorities, politicos. This has to completely transform, to infuse fresh drivers. Another thing is, from LSC standpoint, we've decided, instead of putting a driver training institute, bringing in technology through a simulator, why not we take it to clusters, to the rural van, where we create a mobile classroom. There are many more companies who want to support us, with a 40-footer thing with air-conditioned cabin, with chairs, which are all modular. Take them, skill them in the place where they are, create aspiration, and then dovetail them with what the industry. So that is one way of.
So don't try to pull the potential driver candidates to where you are.
Yeah,
go out, outreach, and get them trained in over there.
And you touched upon the gender diversity. Sorry. So this is already started happening in two-wheeler, three-wheeler, especially for electric vehicles, where there are a set of organizations who've been startups opening up in various pin codes and tier 3, 4 cities, where they are successfully able to groom, counsel, skill train, bring two-wheeler, three-wheeler electric vehicle girls. And formally, I mean, the numbers have just started being capturing. But this has to again proliferate, which is encouraging, and I think this needs to move up for four-wheelers as well.
See, one of the things, you've been in logistics and a trucking veteran, and I've also been in the industry for a while. One of the things we all have noticed is that, while the top tier companies, the multinationals, the companies that are, well known in the media, let's say, who are in this business. So saying we are well aware that the top tier companies, the well-known brand names in the trucking space, they are much more professional in their management. But Indian trucking has got a large mass in the middle of small companies, and they're all owner managed, started by the grandfather or the father, and now the next generation is managing it. How do you bring in, and this is a general question, not necessarily to the logistics council, skill council, but how do you bring in this dignity of labor? To how do you get it to permeate, if not all of society, at least the industry? What do we need to do to ensure that drivers or potential drivers are well treated across the board?
A great question. In fact, that's again another key transformation that is happening on technologistics. If you look at the second, third generation or fourth generations, where from a traditional or conventional way of trucking, things are now getting Uberized on a platform. So to answer your question, each one has to play their part. Sometime back we were talking about Rivigo, where they've launched the relay system. It's a wonderful thing. What is measured can be managed is a great example there, where a driver also is given a dignity to work for a stipulated period of time, where he has rest, he can be with his family, enjoy life like any other corporate guy. What's wrong? So there, if these kind of cultural shift happens, and this can be done only by the individuals, by the institutions, and government also has a role to play in liberalizing policies where the truckers are not harassed en route, and they need to be taken care as, you call it frontline warriors, carriers of nations, and that is where the boosting of dignity lies, and everybody has to play a part. Play a part. So each one has already started. We've been, like I said, now we are married to the OEMs, where they bring the machine, we bring the skilled men or the driver, truck pilot behind the wheels. So we talk to them. There are a lot of school dropouts, college dropouts, one or two doctoral degree guys who've not got jobs are also embracing. Now we keep telling them that trucking is a recession proof kind of or pandemic proof job. I mean, people get jobs. I mean, like I've quoted, here today, gone tomorrow. It's happening with the drivers as well, because these guys are disappearing. We need to get in a fresh influx. So we counsel them, bring them, train them, tell them, and when we deploy, we tell the industry partners with whom that these guys are freshers. And many a time the question that the industry partners ask is, does he have experience? When we bring a fresher, so we again have to give them an anecdotal experience stating that in India, a trucker becomes a trucker after he is a cleaner. Okay, so they learn en route, and that's the experience he carries. It cannot be defined. Unfortunately, like emotions, there is no number or metric for their experience. So we suggest, and I can give you an example for the liquid medical oxygen drivers that we've been training. Now there is this has become a policy level practice with especially large multinational companies like Linde, Inox, Airwaters. These drivers used to go as single drivers, and they are susceptible and prone for COVID, and especially on the third wave, where the incidence is quite fast ramping up.
Yeah.
Now these fresh drivers join these single drivers as buddy drivers or co-drivers or trainee drivers, and the government part, we've also been advocating, where the government is it's a shot in the arm, are bringing in apprenticeship programs, where if the driver sticks on for a year, the government also gives an incentive of around 1,500 per month, which is about 18,000 a year. And like I said, this needs to be propagated. There's not much of tom-tomming that has been happening. So through sector skills, this is greatly cascaded. We are trying to permeate and create a ripple effect with the industry to ensure that the dignity of labor is maintained. More fresh drivers are trained the way they should be.
Wonderful.
We will continue our interaction between Gopi and Ramesh after this very short break. Keep watching Trans India, real people, real emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन।
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन।
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
So a lot of hard work going on across different aspects of logistics,
True.
working with all the different stakeholders, looking a little, ahead into the next few years. What would you say would constitute success for the LSC? In the sense that you're trying to do so much, where there's so much more to be done. What would be a metric by which you would say that you would aspire to achieve? Let's say 3 years from now.
See, 3 years from now, like I said, there are actually 4 components to it. When we talk, we are in a sector, the group of industry, the logistics, is people have been thinking on cutting cost. Yes, it does matter. We see a gradual transformation of that diminishing, and a lot of emphasis is being laid on quality. And people have started taking cognizance and believe that value begets valuation. Okay, so they've started another very heartening trend that we see is a lot of skilling and educational initiatives post-pandemic. We see a lot of resilience coming in. Of course, there's been a push of Atmanirbhar. Lot of amounts are being invested on CSR, corporate social responsibilities, for these activities, where people from industries, for example, when there's a new initiative with regards to trucking, we are into liquid logistics. Water tanker to a Super 7, like Castrol, Shell, Total, they're all coming together, investing money. Okay, they've not been looking at the cost part of it. They want to transform it, bringing in digital literacy, upgrade the skills, and ensure that there are accidents are reduced, and with zero tolerance and zero incidents. Ultimately, it's a multi-pronged approach. We are not into one subsector. So this needs to be replicated in all the 12 subsectors, including the drones that is fast catching up. So one is reduction of cost, cost consciousness. Improving or enhancing quality are the two things which I'm sure would bring in better services with innovations.
Wonderful. So you're saying that your focus is going to be on helping the entire ecosystem.
Absolutely.
in focusing less on cost and more on quality, and making sure that you're able to get in skilled people in careers for themselves.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
your goal.
We have the critical mass, and see, the demographic dividend is a great boon that we have as a country, and this is going to stay on till maybe 2040. Like I said, value, appreciating value, bringing in value begets value.
Do you have any numerical goals, like you're saying that we want to train X million people or X lakh people and skill them and place them? Is there something like that?
See, at this point in time, I can give you a number, but this is going to...
Two more questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any, as an aspiration,
okay,
may not
fine.
be a
So,
hard goal, but at least...
like I said, we spoke on resilience in Atmanirbhar. The government of India through NSDC has started ASEAN portal. This is Atmanirbhar skilling, employability, employer skilling portal called ASEAN, ASEEM. All the industry partners from logistics and across sectors have started posting their demand. This I'm telling you for the number. So as of last month, we have a number of 8,67,000 jobs in logistics. This is coming purely from organized players. There could be double, triple of the number coming in from MSMEs who've not posted it.
Sure.
So to answer your question, the figures what I quote and what is actually the ground reality are two different things. For us, as of now, I would like to submit more the merrier.
Okay. So you're saying that the kind of requirement, the need is humongous. 8 lakhs jobs are being posted today, and so many more are not being posted, so it could be much higher, and your role is to try and get as many of these done as possible, in terms of training as well as
kind of proliferation. Another thing is we are into logistic literacy programs in school to catch young students. We've started MOOC modules from 6th standard to 11th standard, and this is being funded by the World Bank. So we started with 10 schools. Now the World Bank says replicated in 10 states with 10 schools. So these are the kind of initiatives we are into. And
just two things I wanted to ask you about, which are kind of related to logistics, and require a lot of focus. One is there is a huge emphasis on green.
Correct.
Which is, of course, there are electric vehicles and so on. But is there anything which you're doing specifically from a green perspective, sustainability perspective? The second is that what is your focus in terms of employee welfare and well-being beyond that of skilling and job? Is there any initiative that you're taking? You may not be right now, but maybe...
No, excellent question. In fact, I'm glad that you touched upon these both. So some of the industries, they call it the G-Force. One is on gender diversity, and the other G is for the greener part of it. So many things are happening. In fact, if you look at the logistic parks, I'm very, very glad to denote when I had met the CEO, MD of Mahindra's, he said they are one of the best in the country to have their warehouses LEED certified. Okay, which is absolutely on net zero kind of an effect to measure the carbon emission and all the vehicles, material handling equipments, no smoking zones, with gender diversity. So these are all happening on the warehouse fulfillment parts, and the machine concerned, which are all moving from diesel engines to electric vehicle. And like I said, the gender diversity is also taking shape with a very measured approach. Many of the companies who have already achieved 10-20% want to ramp it up to 35-40%. So the green initiatives is happening in big time, not only in warehousing but in port terminals, airports. The number of aircrafts, this is already, in fact yesterday I was reading an article that the empty planes, they have to achieve certain number of trips, otherwise their contract gets terminated in US, not in India. So similar, it creates a lot of climate change. So all these things are being addressed. From the academia perspective, when our collaborating institutions of engineering colleges, UGC colleges, they are setting up Center for Excellences for these greener initiatives, gender diversity, which was never there earlier. So it is a multi-pronged approach. It is happening in all the modernization of ports and all what we do. So this will bear an effect and give the future generations, kids and the gig force of tomorrow a better world and place to thrive and succeed.
Wonderful. And the second was about employee welfare and
social security norms.
Security.
So there's been a recent, a landmark judgment. If you look at the last mile deliveries, where the number of jobs, what I mean is the Swiggy, Zomatos, Uber, Dunzos of the world, they've been working with lack of any social security fabric around them. In case if they meet with an accident or a fatality, there was a few years ago when they were on the inceptional stage, there was no insurance, nothing. Today the government has made it mandatory to cover them for accidental insurance, for COVID insurance, and they are also incentivized for referrals, and better referrals if it is on a gender part. And another thing is we also notice, which has never been there before. When I say gender diversity, it is not only the male or female, we also see the third gender that is coming in. Another very encouraging and heartening part is lot of disabled, partly disabled people, they are also embraced, and there is a target to be achieved for especially the organized players as an SLA KPI, that so many people should be recruited in logistics, and they are fantastically groomed in case of an emergency. How the team has to come forward in first evicting and evacuating this person is also being skilled, groomed, which was never there earlier. So
a lot of focus on the non-monetary part of it, which is in terms of the insurance, in terms of inclusion of people.
Inclusion, empathy, compassion, resilience. Wonderful. These are things that we see a change in trend post-pandemic, which is extremely heartening.
Great. My last question to you is looking forward a little bit. If there are two things that you could change about the entire logistics ecosystem in India, whether it's to do with the private players or the government or anything, what are the two things that you think should change?
Like I said, see, trucking being the large player, when I say trucking, a guy who puts a puncture also comes into the trucking or the automotive space. So these guys have to be given their due dignity. Okay, by the entire ecosystem, by the companies, by the government, by the society. That is one thing that we've been fighting for. Another thing is, there's been, like I said, this is one, I would say three things there where our focus needs to be there. To groom these youth, for consistency, for longevity, to reduce attrition. Because you find a lot of articles coming, you read on the great resignation, the great migration and the churn. So we all need to act now, give directions to the youth to create a pathway for a greater livelihood or employment or entrepreneurship. Third is on the gender part, embrace. You tell me which is a field where the gender diversity is not happening. It's happening in defense, it's happening in politics, it's happening in corporates. So that also needs to be co-created, adapted and embraced.
Wonderful. So basically everything to do with the bottom of the pyramid in terms of dignity, in terms of counseling, and of course bringing in more people
it's a two-way approach. It is both bottoms up and
gender,
top down.
And into the workforce. Wonderful. Great. Thanks,
Thank you
Ramesh.
so much.
Thanks.
Been a pleasure. Thanks
Lovely
a lot.
to have you.
Lovely.
Well friends, that's it from Trans India this week. Later this week, we will be bringing you our special episode of Aisha's Nai Soch. This week, we will be talking to another young female transporter who joined her father's business despite all the challenges. In the Aisha Nai Soch series, Trans India will be talking to Meenal Mehta and knowing more about her journey and the challenges that she faced. So stay tuned and keep watching Trans India. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until later this week, stay safe. Jai Hind.